Well, that worked rather quickly. That was interesting. It was like the chat thing kind of just jumped to life. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. And the bot is here. You want to see if we got the people? I think that's a no. That's a tie. That is so weird. Let's start this thing. Hello and welcome. This is Kevin, also known as AWOL, and we are where we left off last week with the small bag, and I plan to show you how we join it together, as well as we're going to do some updates and things. I'm a bit under the weather. I have my stomach is really bothering me tonight, so I think this is going to be a relatively short one. Besides, we're really just going to be kind of concentrating on how the bag joins together in case there's people who are still kind of hung up on that, and I think that'll be kind of fun. But before we go, I want to show everybody that the secret word game is still going on. This has been the longest one so far. This has been going on since April 9th. I was just kind of reviewing some notes earlier, and I saw that and I thought that was just kind of crazy. So yeah, all you gotta do is chat in our chat thing, and it'll be something to do with me, my channel, or my website. So anybody can win this. It's kind of fun. I'll ship it wherever in the world. Doesn't matter to me. Um, Progress. Let's see. So the blue thing. This is where we were last week. I'm not. I don't recall what the measurement was on that last week, but this week I came up with this. So this is where we're at now. I used a little clip to put the measuring tape on there. We're almost at 12 inches, which means that there is about 6 more inches left to go. So it's relatively getting close to being done. Um, Mind you, it seems that every other row has been adding string for some while, and that's really kind of slowed things down a lot, as well as it kind of takes away from my own like mental momentum, if that makes sense. Like trying to keep up-hearted about it. It would be nice just to have a break of where I was just doing the knots and not having to add in pieces of floss each time. So it is what it is. It's necessary in order to make such a big piece. It's nice that I didn't have to change them all up at once, but it's like every other row. So that's something to keep in mind if you try to do a pattern like that. So, all right, so back to this. Now, to join these two sides together, what you really need is you need them to come together, right? So what we need to do is we have to flip it over, right? And that way when these come around, they come together, right? Now, This isn't mandatory. This is, I was using this before. Anybody that can remember what video is on, kudos. You get extra bonus points for that. But this is I forget where it came from. I just happen to have these things. Um, but yeah, it's a little piece of plastic from something. I don't know what, but trimmed it down, made it useful, and kept it ever since. So now what I need to do is I need to clip it. Now I have brought in extra clips, but it'll appear. All I gotta do is that right there, right? So these two are right next to each other and ready to go. Um, yeah, that was a lot easier. I have extra clips just outside of the camera view there, so that was kind of fun. Easier than I expected. Anyways, it's not like I was gonna say, it's not mandatory to have the piece of plastic in there. I like it because there's an awful lot of string around from the back side of this that I don't want to accidentally pick up. So by putting something here, even if it's just a piece of cardboard, you could use like from a box of cereal or something, just a little bit of cardboard in that space, and it'll just make it a to me, it's a whole lot easier. I'm not, to you, maybe it's just a little bit easier, but let's face it, when you're doing any kind of project, any kind of advantage you can have that just makes it a little bit more comfortable or a little less of a headache of some sort, whatever it is, if you can make it just that much easier, why wouldn't you? So there you go. So now I'm just going to do the backwards knot here. Come down this side. And you can see this is, I'm following the same pattern that I was doing before. There's no real change ups in the pattern. The real secret about joining it is just simply that, getting it flipped around and putting the two ends together just the same exact ways that we were last week joining these other loops together, right? The they you just put the two pieces next to each other and then you continue to do the knots. So it's not difficult to create a bag this way. It's just takes a little bit of patience. It takes a little bit of know-hows. Um, what else do you think, honey? My wife is with us tonight. There she is. It's, I guess, just some practice would, well, I guess I don't want to say that because if this is your first time trying it, you're gonna be like, well, how am I going to practice if I've never done it? If you know your pattern well enough, this is a very simple one if you want to follow along with it. But if you know your pattern well enough, this is really simple to do. And it can be scaled to any size you want. I could have kept adding on more and more and more diamonds should I have wanted a much, much wider bag, right? So this is just a small, like a medicine type bag, but I could have gone full on handbag if I wanted. That's entirely up to you. Obviously, all you have to do is just use more string. It's that simple. More loops, more string, more bigger. So anyways. So yeah, this is going to be a kind of a quick night. We're just going to kind of get things sorted as far as how to join it and what kind of comes afterwards. And then I'm going to call it an early one. Like I said, my tummy is in an awful lot of pain. And yeah. Hello, Minute Craft. Glad to see you make it. You might have to rewatch how we did the joining here. Because I have seen what she's working on, and it looks like she has ventured into bigger territory, which is amazing. That's good to see. Like I was saying, you can totally just keep adding on diamonds if you have the string available until you get to a size that actually suits whatever it is you're trying to create. If you're concerned about making sure that yours is going to be big enough to hold a phone or something, then just make sure that you have room before you join it that it's going to fit around the phone. If not, get a little bit more string. Keep adding until it works. Yeah, now me personally, I don't like working with yarn unless it's got that denser feel the way that embroidery floss has. Like most yarn has a thing like when you pull it, it becomes thinner. And I find that by the time you kind of get further down the work, that it just it just doesn't hold the same whatever. So it's kind of hard. Yeah, I cover that a whole bunch of times. I'm pretty sure I have just videos just on that alone. But yeah, adding string. Yeah, did you double up your strings in that thing? I didn't look close enough to see whether or not your strings are doubled up because that really works out best if your string is doubled. Oh, I just realized. Silly me. These were supposed to go all the way over top of the weights. All right. So yeah, okay. If it is doubled, then yeah, you can add string. Then making something to go over your phone is quite possible. And yarn for doing a phone case seems kind of nice because then it won't feel like, you're doing any kind of harm to the phone, shoving it in and out all the time. So that's something I want to do. I want to inspire people to try new things and venture out and do some of these exciting builds. I know it's something to get out of your comfort zone. Minute Craft is obviously, it does some exceptional bracelet work. So leaving her comfort zone to make something big is really cool. I mean, that's and hopefully anybody else who's watching this, I hope you too will find the inspiration. Which I just realized my inspiration light behind me is not on, but my tummy hurts and getting up just nope. I'm gonna sit over here and just let that be for now. Isn't that what you do after the work is all finished and you want to get it flat? Hey, see, this is the payoff for the camera. You saw it here first, kids. So anyway, this is kind of plugging along nice and quickly, as you can see. Sorry. Mandy rolled her eyes after I said that the irony was a thing that you used after the project was all done to help flatten it. That would be unfortunate that you missed that one part where her eyes rolled so hard you would have thought it was some kind of workout. I tend to have that effect on her. I'm actually very, very fortunate that she puts up with me as much as she does. So now I could either go to the right or to the left. It doesn't matter one bit. I think, just out of my own comfort zone, I think I'm going to take this one over here on the left-hand side. And do a nice long row with the second color. In my mind, how I've numbered this in my head is it's lightest to darkest. So the off-white one is number 1. This would be number 2, and the gray color is number 6. It sometimes helps to actually kind of work that sort of stuff out in your head to know what the color sequencing is, because there'll become times where you're looking at it and you're just not sure what's supposed to happen next, and knowing the sequences and knowing how the pattern's supposed to go can really kind of help save that at that point, keep you from actually making a mistake. Okay, wait, don't I can help you on that one. If you do a kumi with some very, very long strings, right? And let's say you have 2 meters wrapped up in a ball of whatever sort. I have like little silicone things for them. So you put 2 meters in there and then put it into the kumi, make your strap, and have 2 meters on the other side. Those can be two pieces that you add as loops onto your flat piece, right? And then those just add in as diamonds, right, to your flat piece. And then you do another flat piece equal to the size of the flat piece you already have. And now you have a strap for the bag. Does that make sense? I can pull out a whiteboard if you need help seeing what that would look like. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do that just because you might understand, but somebody else might not. Hang on. Whiteboard's on the other side. Can you get in behind you? Open the door. Hang on, bear with us a second here. We're going to get a whiteboard. Okay. Whiteboard time. I love this stuff. Okay. You have a piece that roughly looks like this right now, right? So all the patterns are sort of going this way, right? Now, if you have a very long, long, long bunch of string that you can have 2 meters here and 2 meters here, and whatever length you need of this is your kumi. or a braid or whatever. But you want your 2 meters because that's wait, did you say that you could cut them to 2 meters and that's why it's short? Well, you want these lengths to be at least as long as what you started with there. So then the next diamond that comes in looks like this with a nice little rope that comes over, and that rope comes all the way around to over here, and that just joins into these two spots. Then you add another flat just like you did, and then these become all nice and joined, right? And then you join this to this side. Okay, this gets joined like that. And that's how you end up with a bag with a strap on it. It's really literally that simple. Well, I say simple. It's simple on a dry erase board. It'll take a little bit of work to do. Mandy has made my straps like this before. Let's see if I can. Okay, so I'm going to look through my Instagram here really quick. So good. Bags. I'm sure I made a lot of stuff, so bear with me. I don't want to zoom past it. Okay, so this bag, you can see over here, that's how this came in. It was a bracelet width, and the string is up on this side as well as the other side. I actually made and where you did a flat, that would be what's going on this side of the bag. On the other side, I started out with like a regular loop, made a nice big triangular start to it, and came down a little ways before joining it together, and that gave me a flap to actually go over the top of the bag. Let's see. Here's a zipper one that I did myself. There's a video on this if you're interested in making something small. I know we're coming up close. Anniversaries and stuff. There's a particular picture I took that will exactly explain how it looks. Oh, here's that loop that I was talking about that I made on the other side. So you can see that was the overlap. This is So this bag, you can kind of see the bracelets a little bit more. The rainbow ones were on the side, then you had the different ones. But there's a picture of that before it got put together. Where is that? There was a picture to show how that was to be joined. Maybe I hid that, I guess. This was an alternative. This is a bunch of strings made in one loop and the rest is flat. This bag. Here. There you go. So here's the flat bit. Here's the bracelet with the kumi. and that kumi comes around and joins on the other side of this flap. So yeah, this is how we can easily make them. That's a really great picture there. That's exactly what I was trying to draw on the clipboard. Here's another bag I did the same thing with, just a different opening to it, just flat and then comes out. Um, this bag uses it. This bag used it. You can see it comes in right here on the side. This bag's huge. That's an iPad sitting inside of there. So yeah, that bag's huge. There's another view where the flap is, where the bracelet comes in with the kumi, and then the flat piece. So hopefully that helps out. There's obviously this is just my Instagram over here, so um, it's like you could check that out whenever you wanted to. Lots of lots of stuff to look at and get inspired with. Who knows? Maybe because you've already got as much of the flat done as you do, if you're going to add on those pieces. How did I join the flat edge? Just like this. Just like this, where two pieces come together. You just need to be able to, when you start the strap piece, be able to have, like in your case, right? You made a dovetail, so you would make the same dovetail at the end of the kumi as what you've already got on the other pieces, so there'll actually be a little bit more of a top to it or whatever, and they just join to make the next rows. Um, okay, so technically on mine, I knew what colors I was going to be joining in with. So that straight edge one was actually one of the colors that would be the next things to get tied in the knot. So that was actually pre-planned out. Yes, you would have to hide your straight edge string. You can run it down inside of some knots. Um, like when you're adding, like if like right here, right? I've got half the knot in and another one. Put the string in between and tie it, run down a few times, and it'll never come out. Thank you. Hello, John. Good to see you. I'm excited to see, members of my our little community here growing and trying and learning and coming up with good questions. I mean, that was kind of fun checking out the Instagrams to be able to answer your questions. Playing with whiteboards. I haven't done that in a while. Yeah, I don't know if you watched the cups that I made, the tin can things. those all basically used like whatever that string was on the inside to get a nice straight edge. Those actually end up in the project. So I didn't hide those. I actually used those. So that's always an option. Yeah, that is so I took drafting class. I attribute almost all of this to my drafting class in junior high. Um, we were building um, three-dimensional shapes with out of this cardstock paper and having to think how to make one piece of paper turn into a cube or turn into a cube that's got like a slanted top on it or like all different kinds of different shapes and stuff. Um, help me to be able to visualize how these things go together and create. Because somebody asked me, like, why don't I share patterns of a cylinder? And I don't know how you would do that because it's three dimensional and paper in the computer screen is two dimensional. It just doesn't, you can work out what it looks like while it's flat, but then there's an extra step like what happened here tonight when these two sides join, it stops being two dimensional. There. So now on a project like this, um, you could try doing way more um, concentrating on one side so you don't have to like rotate it around too much. Um, that's great if you're like super familiar with the pattern and you're not prone to making mistakes. Otherwise, I would suggest just doing the one row, one set of these diamonds at a time. And I say that because it'll be a whole lot easier keeping track of, you know, like where the ends and stuff are and what you're doing. I could probably do it where I stayed on one side as long as possible, but it definitely adds to the skill set and the mind, like having to keep track intricately of where you are and what you're doing. And it just adds to the possibility of making a mistake. So I don't even think I would want to do it that way. Yeah. So this one has 5 loops. I'm going to make 5 diamonds that come down, flip it inside out, and then tie each of the diamonds to the one next to it so it kind of closes on a pentagram? Is it pentagram? Wait, pentagon? What? Polygon. 5-sided. Pentagon. I was right. I start questioning myself, and then yeah, I don't know. Anywho, yeah. So that's how I plan on doing it, and um, I was thinking that, with all of the progress that's going on with the Blue Project, I might bring out the Blue Project for next week while I'm here, and then I don't know. I'm kind of toying with the idea of like how much time do I spend with this one on screen versus the other one. I don't. I think you came in late. This was taken earlier today, so it's coming up on 12 inches, and it's out of 12 out of 18. So that is, another 6 inches or so to go. Shouldn't take too terribly long. Just kind of depends. Like I said, I've been having a little trouble keeping motivated because the amount of string adding just has been just never ending. It has absolutely just been every other row I'm adding more string. And I've completely lost track as to how much string has been added. I do know that I've added the darkest two. I've replaced those both twice each, and then pretty much everything else has been replaced at least once. Oh, thank you. I'm kind of really looking forward to seeing it on the couch next to my other one, the orange one and that blue together, like that. I just think that's gonna look great on the couch. That's kind of got me motivated. Yeah, adding string honestly is my biggest nemesis. Cutting string, yeah, that kind of sucks, but I've got methods. I have little S hooks that are put up that allows me to find center. Um, Most of the time I cut it in thirds. Sounds to me like you cut quarters, however you want to rock it. If you are cutting it in half, I don't, whatever. Um, but yeah, yeah, it is. It kind of has, to me, it kind of feels like a little bit of a 70s vibe going on with it, right? It just sort of, something about those oranges and stuff. Yeah, so imagine that summer vibes next to this monstrous big blue sheet colored thing between the two of them like that, and then it's, is it this one? Yeah, so that and that together, that's just gonna look really amazing. I love it. There is a video in my repertoire of, it's called What Is This? And honestly, if you're gonna do projects out of yarn, you kind of want to do what I did. I bought two cutting boards, um, super cheap. Yeah, the kind of, I don't know what do you guys usually call those stores? I call them garage sales or garage door shops, like the ones where you're just go underneath somebody's block and they just have like those roll up doors or whatever, and inside they have various things for your house. I found a couple of um cutting boards there that were probably $2, 250, right? And then we went to IKEA and I found some drawer pulls that were sort of like two pieces coming down and a nice flat thing going across the top of it. And what and I attached the drawer pulls onto the clipboards, and then I used some clamps to hold that onto my table. And depending on what distance I put them apart from each other, when I start wrapping the yarn around it, I can do 8 times, no problem. One snip of the scissors and poof, I've got 8 strings, all the same length. It's that easy. And you can forget having to do the measuring tape thing because that just sounds painful. There. That's the that's the one with the clipboards. Being super productive here, like pulling out all the old stuff. Yeah, that will literally save you hours if you're cutting string from yarn. Like even what John likes to make, he could really benefit by setting, uh, uh, especially if he's using like the same lengths all the time. He could probably set it up once and just leave it there because that's primarily the kind of string he uses all the time. Is John still here? Hello, John. Still here, buddy? The only problem with that, with the clips, is that as the weight starts to build up, the natural sense of it toppling kind of comes up. Unless you kind of if you have something, you could put it on and then you could go around this way. The other benefit, the white one. This one? Yeah. So if you have this kind of clip, you, right. But yeah, added bonuses that might help you to get. Darn it. The bottle came from out of the fridge and now it's all sweaty and now my hands are wet. Yeah, so the what is it video, probably not my best work, but it'll certainly show you how that works out. And yeah, it works awesome. I mean, honestly, I don't use a whole lot of spooled string, but if I was going to, I would totally do that all the time. Yeah. What is that? Like, whoa. Yeah, I get it. My camera has anxiety issues. As soon as I disappear, it doesn't know what it's supposed to do with itself. Could you pass me my straw? It's next to your teeth. There. I remember the days when I used to do that. And then, okay, so I'm 6'4", right? So the the length I was cutting it turned out that I was getting kind of close to being having the strings cut into quarters. And then I realized that if I put it in half and then in half again, one snip, bang, I've got them all the same length, and worked on making patterns that would work off of this length because it had the least amount of waste. So my earlier on designs were a lot of like these kind of patterns, like where all the colors get used at a real nice even amount, because if I used one color more than others, I would end up running out of one color before the other ones. So yeah, there was a lot of these kind of patterns where, you know, just a chevron that kind of goes into something else or whatever it was. There was a lot early on. And then at some point, I kind of wanted to see about cutting it into thirds, and my wife worked out the whole nifty way of doing that. And pretty much ever since, I've always used thirds. It's just, it's it started out being like just slightly obnoxiously long, but then I kind of got my arms got used to it, and now it's just like, yep, that's just the length I start with. So let's see what else. Oh yeah, another reason the blue pillow hasn't gotten as far along as I'd like is I got my new bullet journal for next year, and I've been kind of setting things up and getting the calendar in. So I have like all the months at the beginning of the book, which is different from how I was doing this year's. This way, it'll make it a little bit easier to kind of look back at the whole year and see when events happened and stuff. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm kind of making updates to how I track things like my blood pressure and stuff for my health, as well as maybe some tick boxes for doing various exercises and things. So I'm kind of excited about it, and it's taken up a fair chunk of time. And I still keep coming up with, oh, I could do this and I could do that. I don't know. There's always so much promise when you have a brand new journal, and I'm caught in the excitement of it all. All right, so that completes that row. And then all I gotta do to start the next one is bring this color all the way out to the edge. So minute, you got the whole idea of how you can make the flap for the bag if you so choose. You understand how that worked, right? It's kind of like just making a bracelet part, for a little ways and then joining it to an already a bracelet in progress. Is the best way I can describe that. Yeah, if you look in at the Rapunzel thing on my website, like under my portfolio, um, you'll see that I did so many different styles of bags. Like I was literally trying to push the envelope as to make as many different kinds of starts as I could come up with, just to do it, just to see which one I liked best. Well, you can always end up with, like, I have this, right? This is really, really simple. Um, Starts out round, which you could pretty much seal yours up. And then it's not very long. This is what mom used to keep her glasses in. And she loved it. She was super proud of this when everybody at the activity center was like, "Ooh, is that something Kevin made?" And she's like, got all happy. And yes, he made this just for me. It was pretty cool. She loved the attention and loved thinking that she was special, that she got stuff that nobody else had. Nice. Well, hopefully you found the Rapunzel page of some kind of use. I can see where I didn't actually give a breakdown over there in that area as to like how certain things get made or done. But yeah, she stocks volumes. But yeah, no, I get it. I'll be honest. I'm the kind of person who, when hit with the right challenge, will part of my brain will just not rest until it figures out what it can do with that problem. When I I had seen a bunch of bracelets. I went to a Grateful Dead show and saw a bunch of people wearing nice bracelets. And um, I was giving out candy stripes because obviously nobody's going to buy a candy stripe when there's so many other amazing ones. And I got home after that and my brain was just like, how on earth are they getting patterns? How can they make whatever? And in the early hours, I had the epiphany if I tie the knot backwards, I could go in the other direction. And that's all I need to start making stuff. And lo and behold, yeah, I was doing chevrons the next day. Yeah. No, I feel you. When the creativity bug is bit, sleep is difficult. The plus side is you've got somebody to go to ask complicated, where would you go? How would you do that kind of stuff? I had nobody. There was no internet back when I started. Heck, and my first bag, that was what, 8 years ago? My first bag was 8 years ago, and nobody was doing them the way that I did that. No, that it was a brand new thing, as far as I can tell. I think there were some bags going on, and if I'm not mistaken, they all started from like the mandala and then came upwards. I was the first one, I think, to go from the top down. Let's see, media two. That one, this bag. 8 years ago, I was working on this. I finished it um, in October. But yeah, but yeah, yeah. Pre-internet age. There was no learning knots. There was no nothing. In fact, the only reason I learned that there was two other knots besides the forward and back was trying to. Somebody wanted me to remake a bracelet, and I was like, sure, I can do that. All confident and knowing and stuff. And then I tried to do it, and I was not getting anywhere with this thing. It was not going well. Um, and I used a bunch of string trying to whatever. And at first that didn't go. So I got down to single strings because I didn't want to waste, extra string that necessary. So I got down to single strings and playing around. I'm like, but it's going this way, but then it goes, oh, and yeah, that was such an epiphany. And I didn't like the pattern that they had, but I could see in that pattern something different, something fun, because the one they had, it was a chevron that goes into a zigzag, and I put the zigzag on one side with a diamond and a zigzag on the other side with the diamond, and that's what this pattern is. It's it the other one had a chevron at the top part of that, and I figured, no, I don't need the chevron. I can just mimic both sides being the same. And yeah, and that I did on, okay, you've probably seen my graph paper that I make. That stuff was actually printed on a copy machine and done in color pencils while I worked out like what the string order was to get it started and stuff. Like that was color pencils and paper. Didn't have a computer back then. And if I did, it wouldn't have been powerful enough to do the stuff I wanted to do. I had like a Commodore PET for a while there. Yeah. The tough part with the color pencils was you had to have a really good, clear idea of what you were doing, because if you made a mistake, it was super difficult to fix it. Yeah, the Commodore PET was before the Commodore VIC-20. The Commodore PET had a built-in cassette player. I had the Commodore VIC-20, later had the Commodore 64, and then after that I had the Commodore 128. I used to take the games out of the magazines that were made for the 286 and convert all the code to be able to work on the Commodore. So you had to be able to like figure out what color codes were for the two different devices and change that up. You had a whole bunch of things that were like not the same. Yeah. You kids will never know the struggles. I got in a fight once. This dating myself here. So I got in a fight with my mom because of the whole computer thing and how I was the one using it all the time, and how, whatever, I wasn't letting um, her other kids play with it. My half sisters and my half brother weren't really playing with it or anything, and that there was just all this big huge fight going on, and she was going to take the computer away from me, and I'm like, fine, fine, you can have the computer, but those are my cassettes. And that kind of, And what I did was I just started recording all my favorite songs off the radio onto those cassettes because I was going to be damned if all that my hard work at making games was going to get, just handed over to them. So, yeah, despite I had bunches of music at the time. Ah, kids. It does feel like an awful long time ago. I'll give you that. But yeah. Yeah, we had those kind of floppy disks in part of high school. Um, by that point, I had already been playing with the Commodore VIC-20 and this Commodore 64. Um, both again still having the cassettes. Then we had, but to have that was kind of fancy. And then when I get the 128, those had the big floppy disks too. So hopefully, anybody who's tuning in now, you'll go back and you'll watch how we join this together. So that way, you will feel a little less intimidated about making a bag. And again, with a pattern this simple, I really feel like this is within grasp of almost anybody who's at least intermediate when it comes to making this kind of stuff. So whether it's you're here live watching this or you end up anybody in the next week who sees this and has watched through this far, leave me a comment on do you want to see this next week? Me working on getting more of this bag done, or if you want to see me working on the blue project. So just a little impromptu poll here, just out of curiosity, so I know what to line up for next week's video. Yeah, there's so many things. I have to admit, like honestly, um, when I heard what like masterpieces actually mean, like the whole apprenticeship thing, I was like, oh my God, what a time that must have been to live in. Can you imagine if you proved yourself to be a master, you could take on apprentices in all those tedious parts of the job that you don't like cutting string, would be what you gave your apprentice to do for like the first year of their like tenure. Like they don't even get to play with the string. They don't get to tie knots. Nope. Go over there, cut some string. Cut more. I don't care. Yeah, your head, but we're gonna have project. You just get all that done for you. Okay, you're done with that. Just wind all the rest of the strings up on spools then, because that would be another one of those jobs. I'd be like, oh hell yeah, just wind up all the bobbins. Yeah, is there like a thing for doing polls on IG? Like people can vote. I have I have no. I know YouTube used to have it, but then I think they got rid of it because it was not getting used much. Oh yeah. Okay. Mandy says you can on stories, so I can shoot a couple 15-second videos of each of them. Give that a shot. Yeah, I'm not sure anybody wants to intern for bracelet making. Anyways, guys, my tummy is really giving me hell now. I think we're gonna call this a night. I'm gonna bring this little red string down here maybe before I go to bed, but other than that, I think this is it for now. Um, I totally forgot to mention like, subscribe, possibly share this with your friends if you have friends that tie knots, I guess. I guess it wouldn't make any sense to share it with anybody else. I will be back next week. Before I go, I do need to thank all my Patreon supporters who make this stuff possible. I really couldn't keep the channel going without you guys, so I really appreciate that. So thank you so much for all your contributions and just the spirit of it all that keeps me going. I'll be back next week, and sometime along here we'll figure out what that'll be, what I'll be showing you. So, all right. As always, don't get your strings in a bunch.